on, everybody? Hope everybody's doing live or doing well. I'm doing live. That's funny. Hope everybody's doing well. I wanted to walk through a couple things with you tonight. Thank you for joining me. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at a couple different elements. I've got some questions that have been posed by some people, and I kind of just want to go through some of that. And then the other thing that I want to do is I want to look at what's happening with um, stacking, collecting, and what we can do to kind of better ourselves in kind of a tumultuous situation that we're in. So, thank you all for being here. Appreciate you coming in. Please make sure you're saying hi in chat and throwing the like up. I appreciate that. So, earlier today, Tiger Stacker and I have a program called Stack Collector, and we talked about to crack or not to crack. And we talked about some of the numismatic and the stacking. And I told you guys that I was going to go live and I was going to talk about a couple different elements regarding um, kind of what was happening in numismatics, some of the questions that I had been asked, and wanted to provide kind of just some general feedback. And so, what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of provide the questions that have been asked. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. I'm going to bring up a little thing that I've done for you all. Let's do this. And if the top is too small, let me know, and I'll try to make that a little bit bigger. I've got a couple different questions here. The first one here, these are questions that I was asked regarding being a stacker. What's up, Dandy Dave? How you doing? Um, the first one is, Frosty, how do we stack for inflation? And that is a very interesting question because there's a lot of stuff. Whoops, I just hit my camera. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that particular question. So, in order to answer that, we have to look at a few items. So one of the items that we have to look at is, what is your intent? What are you trying to accomplish? Right. So, if it is just offsetting inflation, then the answer is simple: stack gold. Right? Gold has been a very good, solid market hedge against inflation. When you look at gold versus the pace of inflation, gold's been through the roof better. So, if you're talking just a hedge against inflation, then that's an easy question. However, if we're looking at something more specific, if we're looking at not just how do we hedge against inflation, but how do we protect ourselves? How do we invest? How do we strategize? How do we get that stuff together? It becomes a very complex set of variables. And so I put a couple things together, and I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between this. Um, if you're going to have to bear with me a little bit when um, I come through here. Again, if it's too small, please put something into chat and let me know. But the first question you have to ask yourself is not only what is stacking, also stacking refers to people who are putting money aside, um, a systematic accumulation according to the definition that I have here. It's a modern strategy focused on building a diversified portfolio, right? Okay, easy enough, right? So what does that mean? It means that you are trying to put money aside to make sure that you're protected. That is the crux of stacking. Okay, cool. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, first you have to figure out how you're going to save, right? Then you're going to diversify your assets. And if I look at uh, this particular element here, you're going to have international stocks. You're going to have local U.S. stocks. If you're obviously if you're from Europe, then this would be reverse. Our international might be U.S. based stocks. So take that from your local, but you're going to choose your local stocks. You're going to be looking at. Let me make this a little bit bigger then, and then I'll have to adjust because unfortunately I don't have left and right. I only have bigger. So we'll try to make this better, but I'm going to be reading this for you anyway, Dave. And then you're going to have your bonds and your yields and those other kind of things, right? Now, this is just a make believe. It's a sample, diversified portfolio type thing. And then you'd have your real estate, and that would be your house, a trailer, properties, a building, whatever it might be. So you'll have some sort of investment in property. And then the last one would be your alternative assets. In this particular case, the alternative asset is either going to be silver, gold, or numismatic. That's basically what we're getting to. So when you're looking at stacking, when you're looking at investment savings, when you're looking at doing that, there's a bunch of different stuff. You live in horizontal mode too. No, I could change it. Unfortunately, it's just the view that I use when I stream at night. I don't want to go through my whole production piece with the dual streams, David, and landscape and portrait. That takes a ton of time to manage. I just don't want to do that. So I'm trying to manage a bunch of different stuff. I don't feel like doing a full production at midnight. Now, numismatics is different. Now, numismatics is a little bit more curtailed to somebody who wants to focus on the historical, wants to focus on the tangible asset where a specialized knowledge is required. And why do I say that? Well, it's really easy for people to say, I wanted to get into coin collecting. Well, to collect any coin, just to have any coin is easy for anybody to do. And numismatics doesn't have to be coins. It could be silver rounds. It could be some of these little casino pieces. It could be kookaburras. It could be all sorts of stuff, right? You're looking at pennies from copper coins. There's a ton of different things when you're talking about numismatics that this could be. But if you're going to be collecting a very specific genre. So let's say you're collecting pennies or you're collecting quarters or nickels or you're collecting half dollars, whatever it might be, you need to know about that series. You need to know the designs, you need to know the devices, you need to know the information. And so, more than the tangible asset of silver and gold and being able to hold those, you have to have some sort of knowledge to be really adept at numismatics. But what do you what kind of things does that encompass, right? So we're going to look at you have to make sure you know how to verify the authenticity of the coin. You guys see on my channel, I've posted a ton of stuff about counterfeits, the scams that are out there, and all the items that you see across social media where people are just trying to deceive and lie and sell stuff that's absolutely not real, like the flowing hair short that I just did, where the flowing hair, they wanted the entire set of 11 coins and it was only an amazing 80 bucks. Wait, hold on. How can you have a flowing hair set? It only is 2 years. It's not 11 coins. The draped bust came after that. Even the advertisement that they had was completely wrong. And that is fine, right? I get that. Justina, how you doing? Good to see you. So you have to have a knowledge, a basic understanding of the years that that specific coin came out, the grades of a specific coin. You need to have some basic knowledge in order to do numismatics or coin collecting. However, one of the most important things, and you'll see this on the chart on the left, is going to be your understanding of the rarity or scarcity. You're going to hear me talk a lot about that over the next couple of weeks because of some of the topics that I'm talking about. And you're going to look at quality. Now, grading coins is tough. Grading coins is something that's very difficult to do. You have to look at a lot of coins, but you also have to understand what happens in that run. You have to understand if you're looking at Morgan dollars, not only do you have to understand the Morgan dollar from 1878 all the way to 1921, you have to understand certain years. Ah, no worries, Jost. You're fine. No big deal at all. Because different years only had certain quality standards. Sometimes the quality of the strike was terrible in a given year. Sometimes it was really, really good, like 1921. It's not uncommon to find tons of high grades. However, if you're looking at 1892 or 1896 or something like that, it's going to be much harder to find really good quality coins. So not only do you have to understand the series, you have to understand each year within that series. So condition matters. But what matters with condition, especially when you're talking about investment or setting yourself up, is the quality and the grade matters, but you're going to be spending money for it. So the chart here, and it's very difficult to see, and I'm going to try and zoom in a little bit. And let me see if I can actually move this around. Let me see if I can do that and if that'll work for me. Oops, wrong one. Try and do this to where you guys can get a little bit better image. And then there we go. Now you can see a little bit better. Okay. So what we have here, hey, Stacking Surfer, what's up? What we have here is just kind of like generalized price points. So if you're looking at, in this particular case, I'm looking at a very specific coin, the 1878 8 tail feather Morgan dollar. Now, in good for condition, it's going to be 40, 50 bucks. In fine, it's going to be 70, 80. AU58, we're looking at a $250 coin. You get up to Mint State, you're looking at five, six, seven, $800. But you go to Mint State 65, and you're looking at a 25, 26, $2,700 coin. So when you look at numismatics, unlike silver and gold, now silver and gold, if you're looking at numismatic, that's fine. But when you look at stacking silver and gold, you're looking at spot price, and there are going to be some premiums for the pieces. You want to know what those premiums are. But bullion is, unless you're getting them graded, which I think it's foolish to get bullion graded, but you really don't necessarily have to worry about the grades or the quality of the coins when you're looking at stacking precious metals. But if you're looking at maintaining those for numismatic sense, then you definitely want to be worrying about the grade. Now, grading coins, as I stated before, is a science, it's an art. You can learn stuff about that, but you really want to understand what's going on with that. So again, how do you do that? Well, you have to make sure that you understand the niche. You have to understand what it is about that particular one. You have to understand the strike of that given year. You have to make sure you know how to authenticate that particular coin. Is it real? Is it not? Know that grade condition. And then you have to be able, and I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so we can see this one, but you have to be able to preserve the coin. So understanding, um, you can have a coin that's raw, you can have a coin that's graded, but you want to make sure you know how to preserve that coin because preservation is going to be a big deal. Paula Bloom of Live Coin Q&A tells a story. I frequently have her tell it when she's up on panel of her grandmother who had a really nice album of mercury dimes, and they were in one of the blue folders. These folders you see all the time with the pennies and the nickels. Unfortunately, it got a little bit damp, and when they went to pull the coins out, the backs of them, the acid had eaten the back of the coin basically away. And so you had this really nice set of uh, dollar coins, dimes, and then when you went to take them out, they were totally destroyed. So you have to be able to understand how you want to store these because improper storage is going to cost you when it comes to numismatics. So we're looking at, you know, what is numismatics? What is the thing? But let's get back to the questions that were asked. And I put these kind of here. These are some of the core philosophies, some of the core questions that are asked. And I have two other questions off to the side. But one of the ones that it was for the numismatic person was how do you liquidate? How do you get that money from a coin in an investment situation? So, for instance, you have an SHTF or you have something that goes wrong. How do you liquidate numismatics? It's easy to liquidate silver and gold, but how do you do that? And one of the biggest questions, or one of the biggest statements that I have when I talk about this very particular topic is your network, making sure you have a good network. Rob's Numismatic Archaeology, good day. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. Um, it's really important to understand that there are some people who will buy without any thought of what or how to sell the coin that they buy. I talk about Pistol Packing Pilot, who used to have a channel on YouTube. Um, Interesting guy. He was a pilot, left for family reasons. And he would talk about a really neat set of seated liberties that he had, $10, $12,000 set. The problem is, all right, Joseph, have a good one. Take care. The problem was is that when he went to liquidate it, he couldn't find anybody to buy it. And it's like, well, have you not thought about that when you were buying the coins, right? It's so when you invest in numismatic, you have to have an entrance and an exit strategy, just like you would in investing, right? If you're going to buy properties, exactly, right? You're going to want to have relationships. You're going to want to make sure that you establish a good network. But what does that mean? Well, it means you need to have people in a normal day-to-day environment that you can buy and sell to or from. But you also want to make sure that you have those people that you're going to be able to offload those numismatic items in a hurry. And what kind of people are those? Well, that depends on your coin. So again, it's going to be important to understand when I'm looking at a set, am I okay with somebody just wanting the key dates? Right. So you have to have a strategy when you're looking at offloading numismatic or coin collecting. And so liquidity does matter. And this is actually one of the things that when you talk to stackers, their major problem is, well, I'm going to have a hard time selling it if something was to happen. And if you don't plan accordingly, that's absolutely going to be true. But just like anything you would do, any kind of investment that you would make, if you plan ahead of time and you get a strategy together and you work to execute that strategy, you're going to have less difficulty than if you just do it willy nilly. But it's just how it goes. The next question that I was asked kind of jumps down to the bottom. Then I have a few other questions that I want to ask in relation to coin collecting and numismatics. But that is, what is the role of the professional coin grading services? And that was a very interesting question. And in the Sunday live stream that I had, I saw this question, I wrote it down, but I skipped it because it's a really interesting relationship. We don't have to have graders. We don't. You don't have to send stuff off to PCGS or NGC or ANAX. You don't have to send your stuff off to CAC for certification. You don't have to do it. It's not a requirement. But what they do is they provide a service if you choose to accept it, kind of like a mission, Mission Impossible, if you choose to accept this. And for a fee, sometimes it's nominal, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's massive. They will do a couple things for you. They will take care of your coin. You have some environmental damage or something, maybe you have some filigree or something on the top of the coin, and it needs to be preserved or it's going to fall away. They can do uh, it's a restoration basically. Okay, so they can conserve it, they can restore to some degree that particular coin. And it depends. You're not going to send an ancient coin. You may send that to that, or you may find a museum or something like that that has a better understanding of the recovery for that particular metal, that particular coin. Um, they grade coins. Obviously, we see those slabs all the time, right? You said I've got a couple of them here, but you don't have to do that. So, what role do they do? Well, one of them was supposed to be, and I say supposed to be because it hasn't been very good lately with a number of the professional coin grading services, and that is they were supposed to be a standard kind of run followed by the ANA grading standards where you could send it and they would across the board agree on plus or minus. the grade of that coin, the quality of that particular coin. And we see a deviation from that. Now we see a couple agencies trying to get back to that. CAC is really trying to do some really good work. One of the great ones, up until recently, was doing a very good job about making sure they graded errors and stuff, and now they started to have some questionable practices. So, what is the role of the professional coin grading service? Well, right now, um, I'm kind of recommending people don't send them to them, because again, you can sell a majority of these for, um, as raw coins. You don't have to have them graded. There are other ways to have authenticity validated. Now, if you have a very, very, very high dollar coin, then yes, you're probably going to want to sell it or get it involved in one of the registries or something like that, right? If you're one of the top collectors, and there's a little bit of, you know, a king of the mountain, a queen of the mountain type environment when it comes to coin collecting, and those people who have the top pops when it comes to certain coins. So there's a little bit of a pissing and a molehill, push each other off and trying to take the lead. So if you're engaged in that kind of stuff and you like to watch that kind of stuff, then again, that provides another platform for that. Um, it's just, unfortunately, we've seen the grading services really get wrapped up in labels. We've seen them really get wrapped up in marketing, uh, things like these rip packs, looking at things like this graded counter stamped coin from Annex that actually is damaged and they still graded it MS70. This is absolutely against ANA standards, and we're supposed to say that they uphold these particular values. And I can't stand behind them. I have totally lost all faith in Annex. Not the people that work there, but the decisions that are made by the people that have chosen to do this. And I just can't stand by some of this. So, what is the role in this? Well, it's faltered. We really need to work to get the grading services back to what the initial intent was, and that is standardization of coin grades. And you guys can see this. You guys know this. We don't have that right now. What's up, Jack Gallman? How you doing? Good to see you. Thank you for coming in from Marion, North Carolina. Thank you so much for being here. Another question, and this was something that uh, you think about this, but you don't necessarily think about this. I think about this more as a renter than I do as an owner of a home. But what are the costs of insuring and storage of coins? And again, this depends upon your situation. So if you're looking at storing coins, it depends on where you live. If you live in an area where the climate is very arid, it's very dry, you have less to worry about for environmental damage with water. You have less to worry about as far as high humidity in your safes and things of that nature. If you have a storage in an attic or something like that, and you live in Arizona, you're going to have way less concern about dry rot and mold and mildew than you will if you live in Jack's from North Carolina. We'll pick on Jack for a minute. If you were to store them in Jack's garage, okay. If you were to have an area where you were storing that stuff in a garage, you would have some major concerns about environmental um, the environment your coins were in, right? So you'd want to make sure that you covered things like uh, dry packs. If you have an area like that, you're going to want to make sure that you have maybe vacuum packs, right? Vacuum sealed items for your high collectible coin books and stuff like that. The ones you're going to archive, not ones you're actively using, but ones you're going to archive. Uh, but again, it depends on your locale. It depends upon your location, right? Upon what's going to happen. But the question that really puzzled me was insurance. I've never actually thought, one, because my coin collection isn't that big. I've got some neat pieces, but most of my stuff is stored in an environment where I think I'm okay. I don't store most of my stuff at the house. I have things offsite. I don't keep them with me. Um, and that is for my family's protection. You guys Yeah, anybody was to come to my house, they'd get a few coin books and a couple collectible pieces, and they would be done. Whereas, yeah, I mean, I have some of that covered by insurance, but how? Oh, excuse me. How do you do that? And it comes with now you've got to manifest your coins. Now you have to indicate what coin, the grade, the value, what you bought it for. You have to keep receipts. So there's a lot of stuff involved in that. The same thing if you are a renter and you live in an apartment, you're going to have renter's insurance. You're going to want to make sure you are covered. So if that building, another tenant doesn't have the same quality of care that you have, and they catch the building on fire, you want to make sure that your collections or your stack are safeguarded. So you're going to want to make sure you document it accordingly. Many cases that's going to require an appraiser, right? Having somebody who comes in and appraises the stuff, and you got to be careful about making sure you have the right people. Elle, share the channel with family and friends. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Elle, for being here. I sincerely appreciate you. But if you have high dollar stuff, you might want to consider insurance. Talk to your local insurance. Talk to insurance. They have different ones. Different companies actually have programs where you can store your stuff with them, and they're covered in that. Um, but yeah, all of that stuff is very important. And David Carlisle is right. Silica gel packs. Uh, it depends on where you live. Sometimes you want to do it every 6 months. I replaced mine living in South Texas. We do get quite a bit of humidity, so I replace them maybe twice a year. I think I'm about due to replace mine. I'll have to go look at them. But I write. There's a little sheet that I keep inside my storage unit, and I keep when I replaced all my stuff. And I say storage unit. The storage unit is like the containers where my packs like this are, right? Because I don't. uh, These things are just for collecting purposes. They're not really high dollar, high value things. You can get one of these for 30, 40 bucks. Um, but I want to make sure that I keep that. So I keep a little paper about when I change these out. And that helps me stay on top of my storage because again, storage is extremely important when it comes to numismatics. Now, another one of the questions regarding storage security was actually for the stacker and the investor. And that question was, how do you safely stack alternative assets? Now, in this, they were talking about like crypto, but I'm going to expand that to silver, gold, platinum, palladium, um, osmium, because Neil is here, and some of these other ones, right? So when you're looking at um, protecting your asset, how do you stack things like that? How do you maintain those things? And again, what is your goal? What is the what is the end state of your plan? Because if you're looking at turning things over, so you're looking at doing something like day trading, and your asset portfolio is meant to be quick and timely, then you're going to be looking at the valuation and the company, and you're going to be looking at stuff like that. So storing it is not as big of a deal because you're not actually holding the asset for too long. Right now, they talk about the other precious metal, which is lead. Neil uh, gently uh, alludes to that with his comment there. But there are other things you want to look at. So a lot of people are like, I have a safe. Safe is really good. But he says it's not chained down. You'll never find it. No, that's great. Okay, cool. Um, Now I do have a safe. My safe is a document safe. I do keep a couple items in there, but most of my stuff it's a fireproof safe. It is bolted to the ground, and it's bolted through. I think it's like 12 inches of concrete. But I put my safe in when I built my home. Now mine is for documents. My wife came over from a foreign country. She has all of her documents that she has to have and things of that nature. Now, she since then became a US citizen. And so she has all of her immigration status, all the legal paperwork that has to be done. I have all of my military paperwork and my awards and again birth certificates and travel passports and stuff like that. So I keep all of that kind of stuff in a fireproof safe, and I also keep my ready source of protection in that as well. Now, what's important about this is that's not the only type of security that you're going to want to ensure. Because when you're looking at stacking, when you're looking at collecting, when you're looking at doing things like crypto, you're going to have a crypto wallet. You're going to have debit and credit cards. You're going to have cash. So, how do you safely stack alternative assets? You want to make sure that you have the methods that you get those secure and protected as well. Make sure you have a spam scam protection software. You're going to want to make sure you have virus protection. You're going to want to make sure that you have, um, when you're on the browser, when you're looking in the internet and you're looking at these various things, you want to make sure that you have security. You want to make sure that you enable things like your firewall. You're going to want to make sure you invest some money into some uh, software for uh, asset and ID protection, right? So there's a number of things you need to look at to protect yourself when you're talking about stacking and investing. Okay, because you're talking about a long-term strategy, you need to make sure that all of the methods in which they can access that item, whether it be home, office, bank, whatever, you need to make sure the security features, including your technology, i.e., your phone, are up to date. You want to make sure that those things are taken care of because a lot of people only think of their assets as in, what am I going to do with this piece right here? If somebody comes into my home, what am I going to do? But you know what? They totally forget about this. And this right here can cost you so much money. It's unbelievable. So make sure that your things are up to date. Make sure that your software is up to date. Make sure that you have good information. Make sure if you have a virus scan, you have a software program that can monitor and do that. Make sure you have some good anti-malware and stuff on your phone. Use a VPN, right? That's extremely important. So when you're talking about alternative assets and how do I safely stack, protect yourself, right? Your identity is part of that. So make sure you're including that when you do that. And that goes into the next one here about balancing your portfolio for risk management. Not only do you have to worry about the security and stuff like that, you're going to want to frequently adjust and take what we call in the sector that I work in, we're going to vector ourselves and we're going to see where we're at and are we still in line with our goals? And goals change. As I get older, I'm moving my stuff into safer and safer and safer and safer strategies. When I was younger, I would have much more volatile items, right? I would have uh, greater yield, higher risk stocks, international and US, because I would want to grow my asset the fastest. But as you get older, you're going to want to make sure that you uh, move some of those things to safer and safer avenues because you don't want to have what many people have happen. They focus on a specific sector, that sector plummets, and now you've lost 30 to 40 or 50% of everything you stored for quite a bit of time. Hide your stash at a friend's house and don't tell them. That's funny. Um, but if you do have friends and people like that, don't tell people who they are. Don't do that to your friends. Um, there are people that I know that stack stuff at their friends' houses. They have multiple areas offsite where they stack those particular items. I've learned a lot of my lessons from some of those people. One great example of this is Salivate Metal. Salivate Metal has a number of different places in which he stores a lot of his precious metals. It's not isolated into one single area, and he never lets people know who they are or where they are. And that's a really good asset protection plan as well. You want to make sure you do that. But make sure you're looking at rebalancing that portfolio. So, again, when we go back to what does it mean to have a balanced portfolio, this is just a graphic. It's just kind of meant to show you don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? If you're going to be stacking and collecting, don't put all your money into it. Have other assets. Set your money aside somewhere else. If all you want to do is collect, that's all you want to do. Collect different things. Don't put all your money into art. Don't put all your money into coins. Don't put all your money into gold and silver. Don't put all your money into stamps. We've seen what happened with stamps, right? That plummeted, and now very few, if any, are really worth any money anymore. So be careful when you do that, because if the market or the asset or that item particular to, again, artwork is fickle, very fickle. If you put all your money into art, I mean, people have lost their butts because they just invested all their money into art, and then there's no demand for it. And so now what do you do? So now you're stuck. So again, you want to balance your portfolio, but you also want to do frequent reviews, rebalance frequently. Once you rebalance, then go back through, continuously invest. Again, for the most part, you're going to be investigating the stocks. You're going to be looking at markets. You're going to be looking at their holdings. You're going to be looking at their cash on hand. When you're looking at buying silver and gold, you're going to be looking at stock price, or excuse me, you're going to be looking at the spot price. You're going to be looking at the valuation. You're going to be looking at news and stuff like that. So, you're going to want to make sure you do that, but constantly invest a little bit at a time, whatever it is that you're going through, because that's going to be something that's extremely important. And then again, every few months, years, quarters, however you want to do it, make sure that you are constantly rebalancing. And Marsh, is the volume low to anyone else? Well, let me check my volume settings. Just a moment. My volume is high. I was turning my head a little bit. Let me do this. I'll turn that volume up just a hair. It's going to probably get a little bit hotter. Um, but it should be fine on my end. Let me know. And Marsh, let me know if that's any better. If you guys think that that's better, then give me a thumbs up. I turned off my, I don't have anybody up right now, so I turned off my sound, uh, um, noise gate. That's what it's called. Turned off my noise gate, and that should allow me for it to be a little bit louder, because I don't have to worry about a ton of background noise. But you may hear my fan, and if you hear my fan, then suck it up, because you want to hear me louder. So again, it's important to diversify your assets and rebalance frequently. So why, as a coin collecting channel, am I doing this? Well, I'm talking about this. Yeah, no worries, Shastina. You have a wonderful night or day, and stay out of trouble. Okay, invest smartly, and come back and say hi again. One of the things that I want to do is talk about the best practices. Now, I'm not I'm not a strategist when it comes to finances. I am not a investing manager. I am not a financial expert. But what I am is somebody who's made tons of financial mistakes, and I've had to learn the hard way. And so the stuff that I say are things that I've had to do. The recommendations that I give you is to do your research, to ask other people. So if you hear something from me, take that to people in the community that you trust, and then make your own decision. Okay, I want to give you the best information that I can, but there are smarter people out there that you're going to want to validate and verify the information through. So take that into consideration as I kind of go over these next 4 points, four for stacking and four for numismatics. These are some of the best practices. And I know Surfer's not here, but Surfer and I have talked quite a bit about this. And one of the things, Mad Stacker, you guys know Mad Stacker, him and I talk about this, and that is dollar cost averaging. Dollar cost averaging is extremely important. When you constantly are investing into a specific item, whether it be silver, gold, osmium, whether it's numismatics, whether it's art, whether it's stocks, bonds, whatever it might be. The thing that is, Neil's, you're not a financial expert. I'm out of here. Um, One of the things that's really important is that you continually invest in this. And you'll hear people say this, but why is that important? Well, because markets go up and down. And if you're in this for a long haul, sometimes you're going to buy this at peaks. And sometimes you're going to get in and you're going to be able to buy this at valleys. And so if you constantly are buying, you're going to have a lower cost than if you try to buy it always when there's big sell-offs. Um, if you and try to anticipate the market going down and you miss it, now you're going to be buying larger quantities at a higher dollar value versus if you would have been buying all the way up. Your dollar cost average would be smaller if you were buying as gold was increasing than if you waited and then you bought it when it hit 3,400. So again, dollar cost average is extremely important. I just talked about diversification. Math class for a reason, don't like it. Yeah, well, again, it's not that you don't, it's just, it's very simple math. Um, but it's one of those things where a lot of people just don't understand that if I have $100 and I buy a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here, and I average that over 6 months, I'm going to have spent less than if I wait and buy it at that peak. I'm saving money. And if you do this over time, it's going to allow you to have a lower dollar cost average, meaning that when you go to turn your investment around, it's going to be worth more money. I'm not sure who did the membership. It could have been Tiger, could have been 949, and I gifted out a few, but you are more than welcome, Stuart. Long-term focus. Again, we talk about that, and then we talked about automation. Automation is very important if you're looking at stocks, bonds, yields, EFTs, things of that nature. You're not going to be putting automatic setup transfers when you're doing silver, gold, and things of that nature, unless you're looking at them from an ETF standpoint. I don't necessarily recommend doing that. There are some things out there that are new. People are trying to do this with numismatics, utilizing that particular avenue. But if you're going to set something up like stocks, bonds, things of that nature, you definitely want to set your ins and your outs, right? Make sure that you are aware. So if something happens and the market plummets, you're protected. You don't lose your assets. I love that play on words, by the way. On the numismatic side, the coin collecting side, the top practices that I listed here are do your research. If you have a favorite coin, get to know that coin. If you love collecting cat bust, get to know the cat bust all the years. Get to know the devices, get to know the reverse, get to know the eagle, get to know what the stars look like, get to know what the lettering looks like. Learn how to grade. That's extremely important. If you're going to be buying something, you're going to be looking at stuff up online. You can find stuff that people overgrade, and that'll help you save money. And then you can find stuff that people have undergraded, and that can help you make money. So understand how to grade. Daryl USA, how you doing? Good to see you. The other one, we talked about this a lot here just a little while ago, and that is preservation. You want to make sure that you know how to preserve your coins, preserve your bills, things of that nature, because again, water is a beast. And if you collect copper, copper corrodes. Unlike silver and gold, um, they actually do deteriorate. So you really want to be careful. Gold is one of the best for storage, but copper is terrible. But there's tons of people who collect large cents and half cents and things of that nature, and you really have to know how to store it. And then the last one is know how to um, either have a network where people can help you authenticate, but know how to validate and know how to utilize a TPG, the grading companies, professional coin grading services. You're going to want to know how to use them, and you're also going to want to know when to use them. A lot of people say, "Should I grade this coin?" And most of the times, if you have to ask that question, the answer is going to be no. What's the grade? I'm not sure. Then the answer is probably no. Again, so understand and do that. The other thing is have somebody that you can go to. And this is something that I am not, and I say this all the time. For those of you that are brand new, I am not a numismatic expert. I am somebody who's really good with networking, and I'm somebody who loves to do research. I love to take problems and identify what those are, teach the history of not only US coins, but coins in general. I don't know a lot about currency. I don't know a lot about ancients. I don't know a lot about some of the foreign coinage. I don't know a lot about the military notes, but you know what? I know people who do, and that is as important. Because if I have somebody that asks me a question, I know exactly where to go to get the answers. And these are people you need in your life. Now, I'm not saying you have to subscribe. I'm not saying that I have to be your go to. There are tons of other channels that provide really good information. What I'm saying is get a couple of those and put them in your corner. Talk with them frequently, ask a lot of questions, and they'll help you from making foolish mistakes. The short that I did the other day on the coin sets, there were two different coin sets. One amazed me. For $199, you could get an entire Morgan Dollar collection, 1787 all the way up to 1921. And it makes me laugh because, again, just one of those coins, even in VG condition, totally blows that out of the water. There's no way to get an entire set. The flowing hair. People say, get your 11 coins in the flowing hair. There were only 2 years, 1794, 1795. The coins that came after the nine remaining coins were capped bust or draped bust. They weren't even flowing hair. So make sure that you surround yourself with people that can help you. And if you're looking at buying a coin, or you're going to go to a coin show, or you're going to go to a coin shop, do a little bit of research ahead of time. And just know that if you're going to a brick and mortar shop, they have to pay the bills too. And so it's okay to barter with them a little bit, but they have overhead that they have to do, so they have to make a little bit of money. So show them a little bit of grace when you're trying to barter a deal at an actual coin shop. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is one of those things that's often underestimated or overestimated and underappreciated. Knowledge is one of those things that the people who have it will deny it, and the people who don't will claim they do. And this is why it's very important. You guys, I'm not an expert. The only time I was ever an expert was when my mom and dad hooked up, right? That was the time I was an expert. Okay. Um, I know how to find things, but I know how to find people who know the answers. And that's what I try to do for you guys. Just be a resource. So if I can provide or if I can dispel some myths and give you some good information that connect you to the people that can explain it, this is why I have Paula Bloom on my channel. This is why Eric Beyer and Chuck Daughtry, Copper Coins, that's why they frequently come on. This is why I'm trying to get people like Aaron Burke, who said he's coming on the channel for one weekend to talk nothing but ancient coins. He's basically going to take my channel over and talk about nothing but ancients. This is why I work with trying to get people like Blue Ridge Silverhounds to come up and talk about numismatics with the currency aspect of numismatics. It's because those people are the ones that have done the research. They've put their time in. They know that craft, and so it's important that you go to them to get that information. The last thing that I want to show you as far as this, and then we'll just kind of open it up to chit chat, are some of the pitfalls. And these pitfalls are things, if you can screen capture this, um, I'm going to kind of zoom in and I'm going to move this around a little bit because I really want you to be able to read this. Um, these two are extremely important when you're looking at um, items. Avoid the FOMO. There was a bombing in Iran, and there was a nuclear facility that was very close to production cost. If you follow the media, you'll know that a few days ago that there was this big bombing, and a lot of major channels. Now, when I'm talking major channels, I'm talking about channels that have anywhere from 5,000 subscribers to, a million subscribers. We're saying, "Oh my God, jump into gold, jump into gold, jump into gold. You got to do it now. You got to do it now. The price is going to go through the roof. Oh my God, we're going to be hitting $50 silver. You've got to get into silver now." Coin shops are saying, "Buy now, buy now, buy now." And of course, they're going to say that. Of course, they're going to tell you to buy. Why? Well, because they want you to buy before the potential drops. See, when major events happen like that and the prices of something drops because of uncertainty, coin shops and stuff like that lose money because they've bought it at higher prices. They lose a lot of that premium spread that they have. And so be careful with the FOMO. I tell people all the time, and if there's any lesson that I can ever give you that I would say write down and say, Frosty said this. If there's one thing I really could be known for, it's something that should be the credit should go to my grandfather. And that is act, don't react. Do your research, take your time, ask questions, make a determination, and perform your act. Reacting is an emotional thing. That's where FOMO comes in. Investing with spikes on trends, trying to get in, thinking you know more than you do. Um, all of these things grow FOMO. And then there are these issues where you run into situations where you've made purchases and now you, instead of doing that steady state buying, right, you shoot the moon and you spend all your money, and all of a sudden now the price drops, two, three, $4, and now you're stuck and you got to wait until it goes back up in order to uh, retrieve or recoup some of that money, and your dollar cost per average happens to go up. We talked about that just a few moments ago. Now, I've said this in Marsh that they have to pay the rent, they have to do this stuff, but a lot of these big companies, a lot of these big channels have sponsors, and these sponsors dictate what they ask them to do. They try to get them to be on board with the ads that they're going to be placing, the product that they're going to be pushing. And so a lot of these channels are told by their sponsors, we want you to press this. It doesn't matter how you do it, but press this particular item. Hey, Dimebag, what's up, bud? And so you've got to be really careful when you have events like this to go, okay, let me do a little bit of research before I pull this plug. Did my phone just blow up from JM Bullion and SD Bullion and Hero Bullion and Mountain Metals? And did my phone just explode with these ads? They're all the exact same thing. And now all of a sudden, I get two major stackers that dropping channels saying buy, 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 buy. I think it's a little bit ironic that you would see these prices come out and then all of a sudden now you've got the buy, 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 get. Coin shops are saying this, coin shops are saying this. And then days later, that settles back out and that major drop and that major spike that they were talking about never happened. Now, we did have a decrease, but the decrease increase over the spread of 7 days has basically been exactly what it was before. Yes, there was a spike up, but there was a spike down. This happens in normal checks and balances. So be careful buying on FOMO. Be careful buying on news. Be careful buying on a singular event, because that's when you're going to get yourself into trouble. So make sure you take time to look at the news. Make sure you take time to ask questions and stop. Look at your phone. Again, there is so much information. This is why I told you, you got to protect this thing. There's so much information that comes across here. It can be a tool for your benefit and it can be a tool for your bust. And I don't mean bust as in boobs, ladies. I mean a bust as in you make a bad mistake and you lose a bunch of money. The another pitfall, and this happens more with stocks, bonds, yields, and investing, and that's don't forget and don't try to cheat or bypass fees and taxes. Well, what does that mean? It means that if you try to circumnavigate something by going to a foreign country and buying it there, you could get yourself in trouble. Know the applicable laws. Know how the taxes are going to affect you. Know what penalties come from buying a certain thing. If you're going to be buying, so for instance, we went overseas, and when we went to France, we passed through the debarkation point, went through security, and you cross the line there at Calais, coming from the White Cliffs of Dover, and you get off the ferry, and you have to go through, and they scan everything, ask you questions, and you take the silver or whatever you've done, and you have to tell them whether or not you've spent something. And then when you leave and you're going back to London, you have to go back through there. And that's where you declare, hey, I purchased, $1,200 worth of stuff. And then you get taxes back because you paid the money while you were there. And if you guys ever bought silver in England, it's extremely high. So you want to get that duty free stuff. You want to get that money back. So you want to go back and claim that so that you get that money back. So know your applicable laws when you're dealing not only here in the United States, so under things like management fees, capital gains, taxes. If you're going to do investing, understand the difference between paying your taxes now and deferred taxes. Don't defer your taxes, folks. That's a bad idea. Anybody tells you to defer your taxes, they're an ass. They don't like you because taxes are only ever going to go up. They're never going to go down. And so pay those things, get those out of the way. This is why a lot of people do Roth IRAs versus conventional IRAs because you pay the tax now and you don't pay it later. There are cycles to that, ups and downs. There are things that happen. We look at some of the tax cuts that happened, but there are other taxes that get put into place. Many of those get offset. Sometimes they're beneficial, sometimes they're not. For the most part, you're going to win if you pay your taxes now versus later. Later, you're usually going to get hosed because you're going to end up paying more. One of the biggest FOMO things, and this happens more within numismatics than it does in stacking, and that is nostalgia buying. Daryl USA, I'll answer that question here in just a minute. I want to finish these 2 points. The nostalgia buying off of perceived, and I'm going to put perceived rarity or scarcity. Now, I've talked about this a lot in the last few days. Why scarcity and rarity? Because when you're looking at scams, they always talk about the rarity of the coin. A great example of this: 500,000 mintage silver eagle with a privy. The eagle privy, 500,000 mintage. Folks, that thing is not rare. But you're going to see advertisements and you're going to see people who are sellers that are going to tell you that that is rare. It might be the lowest mintage for a bullion coin, or it might not be. An ounce is an ounce. Okay. $400 for an MS-70 of one of those things is highway robbery. Okay. Don't buy it off of what everybody else is doing. Now, if you want one, get one. But be careful. Marketers are there to take your money. That's all. And 500,000 is not rare. Rare is the 1854, the 1856 double eagle. There's two of them. They're both in the Smithsonian. Okay, rarity. Okay, the famed 1964 peace dollar. They made them. They say there's none out there. It's non-existent, quote unquote. But if it was to ever show up, that would be a very rare coin. The 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle, a rare coin. There's only 20 something of them to be known. And so rarity. Now scarcity, it's more frequent, more common. A 1909 SVDB isn't even really considered scarce. It's considered scarce in the higher grades. Now the 1909 S Indian Head Cent is more scarce than the 1909 SVDB. But a lot of people don't talk about that because the SVDB is the one to go for. So really understand the difference between rarity and scarcity, but be careful with nostalgia buying. Um, it's a huge problem, and again, it's a reactionary thing, and it's usually tied to something like FOMO. And then the last one, folks, I can't tell you how many people I've gotten arguments with, and there's no reason to argue over this. Just don't clean your coins. Now, the only way to truly clean a coin and maintain its value is if it has no numismatic value to begin with. And how is that? Well, it can be a call coin. It can be damaged, scratched. It could have marks all through it, but it doesn't mean it's not a rarity because it could be one of 5 very rare errors. So again, don't clean your coins. I made this mistake with a 1955 double die when I was young. I found one. It's a poor man's double die. It wasn't a real double die. And cleaned it, took it to a coin shop, and they were like, "Oh my God, really nice. It's a terrible thing that you just cleaned this." And I was like, "But it's pretty." And they're like, "Well, you ruined it." And I was like, "Explain." And they explained how you get the luster and what happens and the color that should happen. And if I would have left it alone, it'd have been worth a little bit more. Now, that particular coin isn't really sought after at all. So we learn. And Marsh, I shouldn't use a Brillo pad. I yeah, no, no. Now, if you are going to use a piece of Brillo over a penny so that you can get metal shavings, I'm not sure what for. Maybe soldering copper, maybe something like that. Then perhaps. But no, I mean, it puts micro scratches in the coin and it destroys the surface of the coin. So again, cleaning and proper handling, we talked about the storage of your coins. That is a major pitfall, a major problem of what people do. And so those are the major pitfalls. Now, this thing that I put together, I have a number of these, and there's different ones, and I'll show you the process in this. I have all of these. When I'm done, I'm going to upload all of these to my community page and tie it to this particular one. So in the description, I will point to my community page, and you'll have access to all of these. All of these things that I've utilized to show you are going to be available to you. I'm utilizing more of what I do for work in my normal day-to-day routine, and I'm bringing that into my numismatic journey. So as I'm doing education, I'm taking some of the stuff that I do on a normal basis and applying it to what I do here. So you're going to be getting more professional based items, more materials, and stuff that you can refer back to. I'm putting it into my community page. I'm cleaning my community page up to where it's basically just resources for you. There's tons of other resources out there. I'm not trying to rebuild anybody's resource. I'm not trying to compete with the people that have these big databases and all this crazy stuff. I'm not into that. I don't want to do that kind of work. I want to be able to do research and just get you the answers and then put something up there that is what you can use when you're looking at this particular kind of stuff. So with that, I'm going to go back to the question that Daryl USA had just a few moments ago. He said, I paid $65 for a 10th ounce for gold. Would you suggest I sell, reinvest, or continue to hold. Now, here's the thing. That's your call. Now, from my standpoint, a $65 10th ounce gold, obviously you've had that for quite some time. Um, what coin is it? If it's a 10th ounce, is it an ASC? If it's an ASC, what year is it? If it's uh, I'm sorry, AGE, American Gold Eagle, um, ASC silver. I know better. I'm just correcting myself. Um, what year is it? If you're looking at something being foreign, 10th ounce, there are some kookaburras, there are some Libertads and things of that nature that were done that are highly collectible. So, what is the numismatic value of that particular piece? Um, and then, what would you trade it for? So right now, a 10th ounce gold piece, 360, 370, 380 bucks, depending upon the piece. They might be as high as 450. And in that particular case, if you think it's a great return on investment, then fire away. But it ultimately is, what do you want to do? That really is what it boils down to. Now, for me, if I were looking at holding on to these things long term, now I have a hard time. I've given away some gold, little, 1 gram, 2 gram pieces as major giveaways and stuff like that. But I really try not to do a lot of that stuff. Um, then what I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at, um, if I sell this and then in 6 months I want to buy this back, am I going to be able to buy this back at a decent price? Um, and then it's no longer a cool story about you getting a coin for 65 bucks. It's now 380 bucks. So let's pull up 1990 AGE 1/10 ounce. And let's see if we can find out what the values are. Well, let me move my chat so I don't cover my chat. All right, what kind of stuff are we looking at? Now let's find somebody. So if I am to go at a 1990 1/10, I can sell that, go high. So high would be APMEX and Littleton. Okay, so APMEX $445, Littleton, uh, or APMEX is 435, Littleton is 445. So $10 spread. What other coin would you want to buy in place of it? Would you want to get a piece of pre-33 gold where you can get a nicer numismatic piece for a better exchange? Do you want to get one that's graded? Is it MS70? Is it MS69? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of questions that you have to ask yourself about, if they're raw, what is the value? If they're graded, can you get any premium for that being a 70? Back when they actually graded those at fairly fair um, grades, not like they do right now. So you have some questions to ask, Daryl. And then once you do that, then talk to some people that would sell it. So, for instance, if you talk to your local coin shop, get with a couple people online and say, "Hey, what would you buy this sell piece for, or what would you sell this piece for?" And get a spread. And if it sounds like it's good to you, then go to the place that's going to give you the most money. Now, I would give you slightly different advice if you had bought something like a 19 or 1873 two and a half gold eagle, then I would have said, or gold Indian or Liberty head, right? I would say a little bit different because you have so much more money. Now that's a $575 coin. I would be like, hold, right? Hold that thing. Keep that piece. That is, it's especially if it's in nicer shape, because remember, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, You could buy gold for much less, but you could get nicer gold for much less. So looking at that, is that piece something that it's MS64, MS65? Okay, so let's just for the sake of argument's sake, say that you found one that was in 65 and you got it for the cheap price of 70 bucks. I would not suggest that you turn that over. Now, what I would do in that particular case is if you think it would grade 64, 65, I might send that piece in to the TPG and get it graded. Now, why? You don't need to do it. It's gold. You wouldn't necessarily need to do that. But the difference, as I showed in this particular graphic right here, okay, this graphic right here, when you look at the price of 63 for that 1878 Morgan dollar with the 8 Delft feathers, the difference between 63 and 65 is 1700 bucks. So my advice would be different to you if you were looking at a numismatic coin with good quality. Now, if it was XF condition, I definitely wouldn't be telling you to send it off to be graded. But if it was something in really good shape, but so again, it really depends. The one problem with trying to choose numismatic or stacking or trying to take advice is the advice really is dependent upon the person and the situation. There's there's a lot to be said about talking to somebody. What is your intent? What is your goal? What are you trying to do? They're all in original US Mint packaging. Okay, so not a lot of people pay up for the OGP. Okay, the OGP, the original government packaging, um, not everybody pays up for, especially when you're talking about 80s and 90s. Okay, but if you have one of those 10th ounce, so let me do a little bit of PCGS coin. Oop, sorry. Um, Drinking coffee and the acid is getting to me. PCGS coin facts. And let's pull up our American. You have been blocked. Why have I been blocked? Oh, because it's why am I big? Oh, it's because my VPN. Hold on, I gotta change it. It doesn't like where my VPN is coming from, and PCGS is not allowing me to do this. Hold on just a sec. Okay, it's not allowing me to do this, so I need to open this up in a different app. Hold on. I had to turn something on because my younger son got into something and we had to change our VPN location and it's blocking my PCGS coin app. So I'm going to have to find that out. But let me see if I can find another way to do that because I've got to get to Let me get to my Gold Eagle mintages. Hold on just a second. Do. Gold Eagle 1990, the 10th ounce, 210,000 for 1990, 264,000 for 1989. So again, when you're talking about the runs of those, um, they're pretty standard numbers. Okay, now 2024 had a very low number. Um, the number is changing. I haven't got that updated yet. I update these every once in a while. Try to use a site that has the coin census, but it doesn't always get updated either. Um, but you're looking at an average of anywhere from 181 to 670,000 of these things. So they're not really low mintages. Now, what we can look at is it a proof, Daryl, or is it just the regular circulation? Because the proofs, if they're proofs, then you're going to be looking at 89 and 90 being a little bit smaller with 84 and 99,000 respectively. So the proofs are going to have a little bit slighter mintage for the 10th ounce. But I'd have to check the prices on those, and um, I just don't have the link to that right now because for some reason it's blocking that, and I'm not sure why it's being blocked. And Marsh, get a second job if you have to. Um, Not everybody can do that. Okay. All 10 are all 10 are proofs. Okay, so you're talking definitely smaller mintages. So the proof numbers for 89 is 84,600. The 1990 is 99,350. So you're definitely going to have a little bit better value there. Let me see. Let me see if I can get a price on that real quick. So yeah, so for these, if you're looking at, oh, are these the one in the book? If these are the ones in the book, they go for almost 500 bucks on AppMex. They're a little bit higher than the other ones. They're like 40 bucks higher than the other ones because they come in that blue felt book. Do these come into that blue felt book? Because I have to tell you, the books were nice packaging. Um, 2018, they did some of those in they started doing the clamshells, and the clamshells were nowhere near as nice as the books. The books are absolutely gorgeous. So if you're talking about the blue books, yes, the blue book. Let me pull up one of these and I'll show everybody. Let me share this screen real quick. Um, that's the book that he's talking about. And these things are really good looking. Um, Let me hide this. They're really good looking. And then again, you have the coin here. And they're going for about 496 bucks. Now, this is on AppMex, but yeah, those are really good looking, man. Um, but again, yeah, it's totally up to you. If you have to sell them, sell them. Now, when you do this, there are people in the community that'll give you a fair deal for these. Um, so seek those people out first. Okay. You can go to coin shops, you can do that stuff, but they're going to take some of the money off. You're not going to get your full value out of this. So talk with a number of people, do your shopping around, and then make sure that you do that. Elle, thank you for being here. I appreciate you as always. Thank you for all your support, and get some good sleep. But yeah, those are nice. Um, the books are absolutely gorgeous. Now this goes to another thing. that is kind of the bane between stackers and collectors, and that is packaging. Stackers hate packaging, can't stand it. It takes up too much room. Tiger and I actually talked about that today in our stack collector, and one of the major problems is, you stack for weight. You're not stacking plastic, and so um, there's a lot of people who they don't need the book. So the book is of no value to some people. So when you're doing this, make sure you find people that are actually interested in doing this. And again, don't go to just anybody. Go to a reputable buyer. If you need somebody, let me know. Yankee Stacking, I'm a member on his channel, and he has a really cool resource that you can find various shops and stuff like that. He's talked with a number of them. He does a little bit of vetting, talks to various people, and then if they are a good and reputable shop, he will put him in his list. And so I can do some research and see if I can find some in your area. Send me an email and I can help you if you have to get rid of a couple of those. Um, because again, there's a number of people that would consider buying those, especially if they have uh, kids or grandkids or something like that that were born during that time frame. It might make a cool birthday gift. So um, finding the right party. This is where it's important to have the right people when you're looking at offloading some of that stuff. But if you need help with it, go ahead and reach out to me, and I'll do what I can to get you connected to people to help you. But it's totally up to you. Whatever you need to do. All right, brother. So, but yeah, beautiful piece. These are they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous. Too bad it's not 1996. If it was 96, I would buy one for my daughter. But unfortunately, in 96 they had that goofy clamshell, and I'm not a big fan of the clamshell. Cartier, what's up, buddy? How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for being here. So, what other questions do we have? Um, Anybody else that has anything that they would like to ask or wants me to do a little bit of research or look up? Get to work, Daryl. And again, not everybody has the opportunity to do that. Sometimes things come up, and you have to do what you have to do. Um, and you know what? That's one of the reasons we collect, is to offset that, right? And so I hate that you're in that situation, but again, if you need help, holler, and we'll try to find some people to get that to you. I can tell you, I know of at least one person who'll buy one. Um, but I'll give you that name privately. All right. So what questions do you guys have? I've got 11 people in it. There's been people in and out, kind of up and down all night long. I know this isn't everybody's cup of tea. A lot of people don't like to have education comments at 1 o'clock in the morning. It just doesn't want to happen. So I'm going to open the floor. First off, everybody who's in chat, please do me a favor, drop a like, say hi. If you're brand new to the channel, listen for a minute. See if you like what's going on. If you don't, then hey, leave. No harm, no foul. But if you like what you see, subscribe. And then if you have questions, holler at me. Oh man. So in Marsh, yeah, unfortunately, so the thing that he's talking about, let me pull one of these up. Um, the coins that he's talking about is on the educational series. If you guys like, and I mean this, okay, excuse the pun here, but if you like sexy money, okay, and what I mean by that is in 1898, they created a $5 note. It's probably one of the most beautifully crafted artistic pieces of work that's ever been engaged in American numismatic currency. But because it flashed the angel's breasts, people complained. We saw this with a draped and the capped bust. People complained about the flowing hair being too free, too liberal. But people complained about this, and unfortunately, a series that could have been an amazing, amazing 9 note set stopped at 3 notes. And it is one of those that's considered scarce. Absolutely phenomenal, gorgeous piece. And just, oh, it could have been, that could have been one of those things that just is one of those moments. Um, this is the piece. Do, 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 do. Downloads. Where are you? Share my screen. All right, folks. If you're watching this, you've got to see this bill because this is the $5 note. And on each side of it, I'm going to remove this. So let me, nope, not what I wanted to do. Let's do this. Okay. So I'm going to move this around a little bit. Let's do, it went full screen. I can't move it around. Um, but you can see here why they did this. Okay. This is what upset everybody was the nudity. And so because of this, they stopped this particular series. But this coin, this bill, let me get here. There we go. You can see that a little bit better. This bill, we'll zoom in, has a really nice depiction of Ulysses S. Grant, and then the other general here. Again, just absolutely phenomenal. I love the way they've represented the five in this eagle, that stylized liberty that's there. Um, it's just a gorgeous note. They did an amazing job. Ellis Roberts and J.W. Lloyd are the people that signed the notes for this. You see America in the background. This is electricity. You see the electricity coming off of there as they ride across the heavens, and just it's a fabulous, fabulous note. There are other ones. In fact, um, this is the $2 note. This is another one of these that they people didn't really complain about this one. It was very well done in a Victorian style. A very pretty note. It's one of those that, again, if you look at the $2 uh, denomination, you'll see these are all silver certificates. These have the red label on them. Fabulous, fabulous notes. Absolutely beautiful. I'm going to be talking about these on um, Saturday. If you want to come to the live stream on Saturday morning, 8:30 Central, I'm going to be talking about the history of these and what happened and where the controversy came in. And but they're just fabulous. Good. There's a 5-minute video on this that I did as kind of a precursor. If you haven't seen it and you like notes, if you really like these things, go check that out because I'm telling you, this is one of those things that is just these things are fabulous, and I mean that too. These are so well designed. Um, Now, one of the problems that they had with these notes is that because of the black ink, they had a tendency of smudging. So if you're ever going to buy one of these and you have to buy one of these in high quality, you're going to be spending quite a bit of money. Just absolutely fabulous pieces, though. But yeah, neat stuff. Great call there, N. Marsh. Yeah, truly, when money was art. Um, but God, these things are gorgeous. And now we're stuck with, you know, the state dead president pieces. Uh, not so interesting. So, all right. So, what else you guys want to talk about? Talking about coins, you guys have seen this. This is nothing new. This is my 84cc um, Carson City. That is one of the ones. Again, we were talking about this in Stack Elector today. It's another lesson that I want to pass on for people who are brand new. When do you crack something out of a holder? Well, not when it's in something like this. Now, why is that? Well, this particular coin in this case right here is about 350 bucks. You can find it for a little bit more, a little bit less, depending upon the grade and the condition of the coin. But because it's a GSA, because there's a massive story and there's a hoard surrounding it, there's a premium on this particular coin. but it has to be in this holder. If you take this out of here, this is just an 1884 CC. And that coin by itself is not going to have that same level, that same provenance that you have inside the Carson City holder. Now, there's fake holders, so you got to be very careful when doing this. But you don't want to crack these out. What you want to do is send them, if you're going to get them graded, send them to the grading company and have them do it. But they will grade these in these holders. You don't have to actually pull these out, grade these in these holders. But if you crack this out of here, even with the certificate, there's nothing to say that that is the coin that was in this, and you'll lose that provenance. Doesn't matter if you have this or not. They cannot validate once you crack this open. They can't validate that that's the coin that was actually in that holder, and they will not do that. They will not reholder it for you, and they will not put the Carson City thing on there. Now, if for some reason something dropped on the corner and it got crushed, it's still in the holder. There's no way the coin has been removed. It's never been pulled out of that piece. Then the professionals will go through and they will do whatever, but you don't pull those out of there. Tiger Stacker showed a Renfield coin. The Renfield coin was something that was really cool. And when you look at these particular items, it's the provenance of that, right? There's the Redfield Horde. I did a video on that. It's probably one of my funnest videos that I think I've ever done. Um, and if you take it out of that holder, it just doesn't carry the value. And those are $300-400, depending upon the one, in some cases, even more. And so you got to know when to crack. You got to know when not to crack something out. And that was something, if you want to go watch what Tiger Stacker and I did, it's on his channel. Go check that out. That's a really good discussion on when you should and shouldn't crack something out. And Marsh, Frosty has videos on fakes if anybody would like to see them. Yes. I also have good connections with people like Jack Young, Jack Riley. You may not know those names, but I promise you, in the world of counterfeiting, these are people you want to get to know, because they are some of our front lines in identifying, especially with certain varieties, Morgans, cat busts, flowing hairs, Goldbrecht dollars, things of that nature. They're the people you want in your corner. And I've been fortunate to get have a good relationship with them. So they send me a lot of stuff, help me to forward on information from people. So if you guys want to know more about counterfeits, make sure you're subscribing to the channel, and I will make sure to constantly put stuff out, what you need to be protected. Another thing that I like to do is in the short side of the house is to make sure that I'm putting folks the awareness on blast for these counterfeit ads, on you can get this coin, or you can get this set, or you can do whatever, and really letting people know, be careful. This is not real. This is not genuine. It's a counterfeit coin. It's a real coin. You can't do this. So make sure you, again, if you need that kind of information, if you're new or if you're seasoned and you're trying to look for good, solid information, again, I try to provide you the best that I can, but I'm always making sure that I surround myself with people who can give you the right answers. And if I don't know, I will tell you I don't know, and I will forward that on. Cartier, I'm not a big on slabs at all, but I would love to get a Carson City someday. Um, you don't have to get a Carson City in a slab. Um, the GPC, or the GPCs, excuse me, the GSA holders, they're just a little special thing because of what happened when the United States Mint did an audit. They went through, found that they had a ton of coins. In fact, there were so many that they're like, we got to figure out how to get rid of these. Um, and the Government Services Agency, GSA, was the one who was tasked with selling these. And they had a very, very, very hard time selling these. You could have bought one of these for the very cheap price of $99, back in the 80s. And now, many of these are $300, $400, $500, $600. So again, the provenance behind these, you don't want to crack these out. Now, if you have a Carson City book and you are doing it and you understand the value that you're losing by taking it out of the GSA holder, and that's your decision, then do it. But you should never crack out of this. Now, it's different than cracking out the proof coins from a proof set from 96, 97, stuff like that. That's totally different. But when they're in these specialty holders like this, not labeled, but these specialty holders, and you'll, if you have any questions on it, reach out to me and we'll make sure we'll let you know. But yeah, you got to be really careful with cracking stuff out of holders. You may inadvertently cost yourself a bunch of money, and that's no bueno. That's a slab I'd love to have. You know what? So here's another slab that I love. And this is the collecting side of me. This is not something that I would ever have slabbed. Let me adjust these things and shift this here. This is a overly expensive 2 ounce piece called, it's from Cook Islands, and it's called the Remembrance Poppy. And the reason that I have this particular piece, I did not slab this. Now, to show you the size when we're talking about a monster, this is a monster slab. This is a normal coin slab. This thing's a huge, huge slab. It's very thick. So if we put these side by side, you can see the thickness on that. That's extremely thick. But why do I have this particular coin? Well, you guys know that I served in the military and I have a very specific appreciation for the men and women who serve their countries. And in World War One, in a very specific battle in a field called Flanders Field, that was a poem was written on. The blood was stained red, and what happened is the white poppies that used to grow in the field changed color, and the red poppy signified all the blood that was spilled in that particular field. And there was a very famous poem and a song that was written about it called Flanders Field. And it was actually one of those things that was utilized to help create Memorial Day. So if you haven't seen my story about Memorial Day and how Memorial Day came about, this is very significant when it comes to the holiday Memorial Day, which it wasn't called Memorial Day at the very beginning, but it's a historical piece. Um, if I were to have the opportunity to buy this again, would I? No, I wouldn't have bought it slabbed. I mean, I'm glad it came slabbed. I love the piece, but this is where the value, it's not a numismatic piece. So I would never have had this slabbed. It would have been fine in a normal box that it came in, which was something like this. Okay. This is the box that it came in. It was very pretty, right? I would have been very happy with the box, the coin sitting in something like this. But now, not only do I have one giant slab, I've got another box I've got to store because if I want to keep it, then I have to keep it. And so, um, in some cases, it just makes more work. I wouldn't have recommended slabbing this, but I had the opportunity to buy it slab for the same price as a non-slabbed one, and so obviously I did that. But now I got to figure out what to store the box. Um, Question: does a coin from a hoard have a sustainable value? I have 6 NGC slab coins from the Binion hoard. Daryl USA, you and I need to talk. Okay, so I did a story on the Binion hoard, and people love their hoards. Binion, Jack Binion, who was the one who killed his girlfriend, and or his girlfriend and her boyfriend are the ones that killed Binion. Um, had a massive, massive, massive amount of wealth that he talked to burying um, all the silver and stuff that he had in Binion's vault when they were getting audited. They pulled all that out so that they wouldn't lose that money because the Binion's casino had run into some financial issues and some issues with law enforcement. And so they removed all the silver in a one night massive spree, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. They had this big giant truck and had it stacked 24 deep, 24 long. Just amazing. Um, and they moved all these silver coins, gold bars, and did whatever. And the Binion hoard was something that was found after they did the murder trial and everything else. They were able to find some of these things. There is a premium on Binion. There is a premium on the Big Sky hoard. There's a premium on the GSA hoard. There's a premium on the Redfield hoard. So yes, your hoards actually do contain a little bit of extra value. Now, Binion, not as much as Redfield. Big Sky, less than Binion. So the hoard does matter. But there's a lot of people, especially from the West, Arizona, California, Utah, Nevada, obviously, who understand the Binion hoard. And there's a lot of treasure seekers that have sought for years because there's supposed to be a whole lot more coins, $200,000-300,000 worth of Morgans and Peace dollars that are still unaccounted for out of the Binion hoard. And so there are people that definitely want to do that. The Binion hoard is one that I actually don't have. I have GSA, I have Redfield, I have Big Sky, I have the Great Northwest, I have the treasure island. I can't remember the name of the island. Um, it's the one where all the silver was found, and everybody's tries to do the well every year, and I can't think of the name of the treasure island, but it's called something else. So I have a number of them. I want to get a good coin from the Binion hoard. So if you're ever looking to sell one, reach out to me. Let me know. I'll give you a fair price for it, because they do have a premium. But yeah, they're collectible, right? People like those stories. And if you guys like hoards, go check out the Redfield hoard. If you're looking through my videos, it's the one that has the IRS on it, because Binion hated IRS. Redfield hated the IRS. But the Binion and the Redfield hoard, they came out a couple weeks apart from each other. They're Oak Island. There you go. That's the one. I have a hoard from some silver that they found there. I have a coin from there. Um, so I have a few different hoards. I have two more stories on hoards that uh, I need to do. But yeah, Oak Island. Thanks, N Marsh. I appreciate you. But yeah, definitely, Daryl, there is much interest in the Binion hoard. And if you talk amongst people within our streams, our normal day-to-day streams, and you talk about Binion, and you let people know that you have some of that stuff, you'll get interest. You'll get people who really want to see that stuff. So definitely, this is why if you have something like that that's in the Binion holder or and that's graded by that, you do not want to crack that out because you lose the provenance, and you might have something that's $150 coin now that goes for 50. So be very careful when cracking stuff out like that. Know what you have, ask questions. And again, if you don't know, reach out to me, let me know, and I will make sure that I do this. Yeah, it is a kind of famous word. But Daryl, seriously, if you ever want to get rid of those, and I'm not trying to push you into anything, please. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I'm just telling you, there is somebody that that is interested in one of those. Should you ever get to sell one, and you and I can get on a call, we'll pull the values up side by side. We'll look at it together. We'll settle on a price. We'll do that. I'm going to treat you just like I would anybody else. I will make sure that I give you fair prices. Tiger Stacker and I, when we do our trades, stuff back and forth, we do fair market value. I don't expect him to cut me any deals because he's my buddy, and I don't give him any deals because he's my buddy. We give each other stuff because we do. That's just we like to do that, but we do not barter uh, between friends because those are the things that can kill friendships, and we know better than that. So that's something that we don't do. So if that's something that you want to do, I promise you, I'll give you a good fair deal on those. What other questions do you guys have? Please feel free. I said that I was going to stay on till between 1:30 and 2 o'clock. I can end it early if you guys are done. You want to go watch somebody else, you're more than welcome to do so. And again, if you haven't subscribed and you're watching, you know, like, hey, I could follow this channel. Please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. One thing that you won't hear me do is you won't hear me ask for money. Okay. I won't ask for subscriptions. I won't ask for, or not subscriptions. I won't ask for memberships and I won't ask for super chats. If you want to do something like that, you're cool. No worries. But if you're going to do something like that, gift memberships. Why? Because I'm more about people feeling like they belong to a community than I am about making money in this. The money will come from people watching the videos, from learning the lessons, watching these live streams, so on and so forth. The money eventually will come just because it will find me that way. But if you want to help people out, you want to bring people into the community and make them feel like a part of something, gifting a membership is the way to go. Just it's nice. I mean, you saw what happened when somebody came in. Stuart earlier was like, ah, somebody gifted me a membership. Awesome, thank you. It's a fun thing to do. You go in and all of a sudden you see that you're green, and it's fun to go into somebody's channel and you've been gifted a membership. It's just a way to build camaraderie in that particular channel. So fun stuff. But again, if you like what you see here, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. So Frosty, back to Oak Island thing. Roosevelt. It was an Ike dollar. There was a hoard of proof Ike dollars. I think it was a 71, and there were a whole bunch of things that actually was in tie to the person who had purchased it. They had stored a bunch of stuff at a First National Bank. It's the same thing that happened with the Big Sky hoard in Montana. Um, and uh, the Montana one became a bigger one because of um, engagement with Littleton Coin Company. Littleton Coin Company was the one that really blew the lid off of the Big Sky hoard, which honestly was just a little first loan savings bank that they ended up having 100,000 of these put aside because the lady who collected them just bought $1,000 and did that for 10 years and had a couple $100,000 of these. Um, so do you ever deal with ancient coins at all, like Roman, Greek? So here's here's the thing about ancients. If I'm going to be talking about ancients, I'm going to have Aaron Burke's site up and I'm going to be referencing Harlan J. Burke, or I'm going to be referencing his daughter, and I can never remember her name, or I'm going to be Aaron Burke. So those are going to be one of the people that I bring in to that conversation. I am not an ancient coin expert. Now, with that being said, I love ancient coins. I just don't know anything about them. One of the reason Aaron cracks them out is because they probably are wrong or they're not what they say they're going to be. Maybe they're from a different dynasty. Maybe they're from a different family. Maybe they're from 800 years later than what was put on the slab. There's a number of reasons why he might crack something out of that, but I'm not the ancient expert. Right? Again, that's just not something that uh, that I do. That's who I. If you're buying Cartier, if you're buying from Harlan J. Berg, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to. I, there is nothing I can do to help you. You are in the hands of the right person. Period. End of story. Um, Long Live Coin does, but I wouldn't send you to Long Live. I would send you to Aaron J. Burke. And the reason I say that is not because I don't like Long Lived. I do like Long Lived, but he's learning as well. Um, Ancients are one of those things that you can spend way more money than you have to. You can spend way more money than you ever should. You can have the right information and be wrong. And so ancients are a very tricky, fickle thing. Now, what's really good and what's really good about Long Lived is Long Lived also does the histories, and I like looking at the histories. I can tell you a lot. I learn a lot. I study a lot about the histories. So I can tell you the histories of the time frames. What's up, Tiger? I can talk about the histories and the time frames of these things, but I am not the coin person. I couldn't tell you a thing about who's on the coin, whose horse that is. That's not the person. I know. I stay away from trying to figure out ancients. Now, I love them. There are certain coins and periods of time. Vote for Pedro is another person who loves ancients, and him and I talk quite frequently about the Greek and the Trojans and Troy and Helen and what happened and some of the battles that happened. And I, explain about both of these and the history of them and what happened. And so it's definitely one of those things. Matter of fact, let me ask you guys a question. For those that are in chat, how many of you know who Achilles is? Put a one in chat if you know who Achilles is. Oh, Harlan, yeah, Cartier, Harlan, his daughter, and Aaron are the epitome of class in business. And when it comes to ancients, you can't beat them. You just can't beat them. Um, it's they're brilliant, like quite literally brilliant. There's very few families that can even come close to competing to what Harlan J. Burke has. Now there are some people in Europe and France and things like that, and obviously in Rome and stuff like that. But again, that's very specific to those part of the Thessalonica and all that stuff. Oh, Thessaloniki, yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, and I love the history of Thessalonica and Philippi and all those other things like that. Yeah, Hector, the Trojan War, killed by Hector. Yeah. So, but there's a lot of people who have never heard the story. How many people know the history, the Trojan Bophares? You guys know who that is? Does anybody put a one in chat if you know the story of that Greek hero? If you don't know the story of that Greek hero, I will tell you that one. That is a very cool story. It's a lot of fun. A lot of people know about Achilles shot with the arrow through the heel, but the other character actually the same basic thing. Mother dipped him in the Euphrates, and the Euphrates was supposed to make them permeable. And this is the one where because um, uh, the mother held by the hand and dipped him in, the tendon was covered. Okay, and so when they dipped in um, the Achilles into the river and came back up because the river Styx, excuse me, the river Styx. Okay, I don't know why I said the other one, the river Styx. Um, Brought him back up, and he was impermeable to everything. But because she had held him by his ankle, um, they the ankle was his weak spot, right? And so that is where that chink in his armor came from. Well, centuries later, there was another hero, and his name was Bophares. And Bophares' mother knew about this story of Achilles, and being of the same lineage, she was like, "Well, I know a better way to do this." And what she did is she actually grabbed Bophares and dipped him in the river, but did it by grabbing his gonies, his nuggets. And when he came out, of course, you know, the heels, the ankles, the knees, everything was covered, and so he was impermeable to this. And so they say that that people would shoot him, and the arrows would reflect off of him because his skin was as steel. It was like iron, and it was totally there, right? So the story of goes on that he was fell by a lady that they wanted to get intimate with, and so in doing their deed, found out that this was his weakness, and took a dagger and held it to his throat, but then took the spear and pushed it through his gonies and killed him. And so a lot of people know the story about Achilles and his heel, but don't forget about both of these nuts. Oh, I love that joke. I hope you guys are laughing because that's one of the best both of these jokes there is. Come on, folks. You guys got to like that one. Somebody better give me some laughing emojis or something. Oh, I got one unsubscribe. No, I'm just kidding. uh, that's if you're ever talking about ancients, that is by far one of the best ancient stories. So, yeah, so Achilles heel and both of these nuts. So, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that story. If I cut my hair off, I'll lose my strength. Yeah. So, but there's, you guys know me, I got jokes for everything. But there's lessons in antiquity. So it's just, that's one of the best ones that I've ever heard about antiquity and that kind of stuff. So I hope you guys have enjoyed that. Well, what other questions, what other comments do you guys have? I think I've been able to answer a majority of the questions that are here. Um, Again, Aaron J. Burke or Harlan J. Burke, definitely the place to be. If you're getting your ancients from there, you're doing something right, Cartier. And again, he has confirmed that when he gets back from his trip, he's going to be on my channel for 2 days, and he's basically just taking it over. He's going to take over the Saturday, Sunday live stream and just talk about that kind of stuff. That is true. But dad jokes are dad jokes once they become apparent. So you do what you got to do. But yeah, no, Tiger and I joke all the time about how not funny either one of us are. Um, and that is exactly what brotherhood should be, right? Ripping on each other because that's how relationships are built. Oh, so how do we feel about men? We're going to go straight into the politics. Um, I have I have a very specific lean on this. And I want to ask chat before we start digging into this. Is this a topic anybody else wants to talk about? Do you want to continue to talk about stacking coins and stuff like that, or do we want to move it into politics in Iran? If you want to steer clear of that, then tell me you want to steer clear of it. We will do so. I will leave it to chat. Not everybody wants to talk about this stuff, but if people want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. I have a very specific opinion on this. So I know where I stand in this. And I'm good talking about it and I'm good not talking about it, but I will defer to chat. Um, Again, I need chat to say whether or not they want to do this because I don't mind talking about it, but I don't want to talk about something and then have, 18 of the 20 people that are in here leave. If you guys are here to listen about coins, we'll talk about coins. You guys can talk about it all you want in chat though. But I'm going to leave it to everybody else because again, I'm here for you guys. So you guys ask what would happen. But I will say this: laughed at when you said you got wanted to be a comedian. They laughed when you said you wanted to be a comedian, but now no one is laughing now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you guys are seem to be okay with this. Um, I think we set them back, but I think we set them back a uh, a very short time frame. The only way we could truly set them back is to remove the minds that know the information. The technology can be reattained. Um, the regimes change. Now, a lot of people call for regime change. Remember, we didn't kill Hitler during World War II because Heimlich and some of those folks were worse, right? They had worse strategies. They wanted to do more vile things. So sometimes regime change leads to worse situations. Um, and depending upon the relationships that um, our military or our comrades overseas have. We have situations where they may have special relationships with the adversarial warlords, so they carry additional weight. So it really depends. Regime change isn't always a good thing. In most cases, yes, it can be, but there are situations where it's not always true. What we have to find out is this going to be a situation where we have another Iraq where we run in, we do this, and we cause a power gap? I'm concerned about the power gap. I'm concerned about going in, taking everything over, then backing out, and leaving a power struggle where these people come in, and now some of these other people come in, and now it's even worse. Um, so there's there's the potential, if we're not careful, not only for them to obtain weapons like this. However, you also got the opportunity for genocide, should the wrong set of people come in, and you have people in those communities that have been helping the put in regime. You can have mass genocide, and you can have tens of thousands of people lost who lose their lives. So it's a very delicate situation. I think we did what we had to do. I can't say whether the president was right or wrong because I don't have the information and the intel that they have. I have exactly what you have. I have the stuff that I get from the media. I don't get military briefs. I don't speak for the military. I don't sit on the Congressional Service Committee. I don't have relations in Iraq or Syria, Iran. You know, those same things. I don't have those those bits of insight, so I can't provide fact. All I can do is provide conjecture and concern based off of stuff that's happened in the past. I am concerned about that Cartier. I am concerned about boots being put on the ground in that area. I'm hoping that we do what we can to support Israel and allow the region to sort out the region. This is nothing new, folks. These people have been battling for thousands of years. They'll continue to battle long after we're gone. This is nothing new. We made it worse with the Paris Accords by separating and arbitrarily cutting up borders. We made a very sticky situation even worse. Um, but these things have been going on since the Inquisitions, and you go back to times beforehand. You go back to nomadic tribes, the warring states, the warring factions. Um, you know, is that area of land that is so important because of the water, or is it because of other reasons? Um, is it just purely religious? No, there's other reasons involved. There are strategic ports. There are religious sites. There's a lot of different things that are happening. There's tons of history. There's families that are being involved. So again, there's so much engaged in here. Now, the question related to what Tiger and I talked about in relation to Iran was the price of silver and gold in the US. Everybody was saying it was going to skyrocket, it was going to explode. And I called Tiger and told him, watch this, it's not going to move. It's not going to happen. We talked about what we were going to talk about, Stack Elector, a couple of days ahead of time. And I'm like, look, it's going to drop, it's going to flatten out, it's going to slowly start to rise, and we're going to be here. Um, it's going to be one of those things that it's not, the event itself is not going to affect it. What's going to affect silver and gold price are those marketing mongers, right? That are trying to get you to FOMO. We talked about that all the beginning of the stream, right? The reaction. People want reaction. People want you to make decisions based off of fear. Oh my God, the prices are going to go through the roof. I better buy now. Um, Prices are pretty flat actually the last few days. Yeah, they spiked and went back down, but they're pretty flat. And so again, what we have to do. So I'm. Are we worried about sales? Yes, we should always be worried about sales, not just because something happened. They call them sleeper cells for a reason. They're worse when you're not expecting them. Right now, we're on high alert. Everybody's paying attention. the likelihood that an event's going to happen right now out of retaliation is going to be minimal. I'm not saying it won't happen, but you got to worry about sleeper cells when it's quiet, when nobody's thinking about it. Those are the times they're dangerous because those are the times they get really powerful. And that's when they do these really big sneak attacks when everybody thinks they're invulnerable. They're impenetrable, impervious to harm. And you've got to be careful about. So, like right now, everybody's hot. Okay, everybody's aware. Everybody knows what's going on. All the agencies are hot on their trail. Everybody's paying attention to it. Yes, something could happen. And you got to watch rallies, watch public places, gatherings. Um, but don't live in fear. Do not live in fear. Um, there are certain things like with what's happening in California and all the ice marches and stuff where we've had warnings, even within my work, that says, hey, be careful. There's going to be some stuff downtown. And so I just chose not to go to work that day. It wasn't out of fear. It's a wise decision to be aware of those things. So, what do you do in these situations? Be observant, right? If you see something different with your car, check it out. If you think somebody's following you, take different routes. Make a pit stop at a police station. Don't you have to do anything? Um, Go into a department store, right? Walk in. Go tell security that you think you're being followed. There are things you can do to protect yourself. Be observant. Number one, right? Protect yourself. Update your virus protection software. Don't be Googling stuff that's not your major sites and looking for a bunch of stuff and not expect potential viruses to be out there. Don't open emails saying the info you needed, open this PDF. Hey, check out this video about this particular item. And then they send you a link, but they don't show you the actual video or the thumbnail. There's nothing to it. Be careful with doing stuff like that. Use your heads. That's the best thing you can do. Again, if there's any advice, if you guys come to Frostbite Coins and you said the only thing I ever learned from Frosty was act, don't react, I would die a happy man. Because if you genuinely get that, it doesn't matter what it applies to. Situations like this, okay? Yes, it's a concern. Yes, you've got to be aware of what's happening, but you can't live in fear over it. Don't allow the media, don't allow this stuff to destroy your life. Live your life. Look at what happened when we let media blow us up out of the water when we had the whole C19 issue, right? Everybody isolated. Everybody did. What happened? Well, we lost money and markets fell and businesses closed and right. So don't live in fear, folks. Take extra precaution. Pay attention to what's going on. Look at around you. Understand. Pay attention to your environment. Right. Counterinsurgency. Right. Standard security. Best practices. Just do basic stuff. It's like Tiger. What is the number one thing that a hospital employee can do to stave off infection? If you want to keep infection rates in a hospital down, what is the number one thing the hospital can do? It's not spend $50 million on infrared lights and these ultraviolet hand cleaning machines. It's not create these vacuum free wound seal packs that allow you to monitor for this. It's not state of the art monitoring equipment. It's a bar of soap and some water. Hand washing. Yeah. Number one thing you can do. It's very simple. It's very easy. But it's the same thing. Whether you're doing stacking, whether you're doing collecting, whether you're doing stocks and bonds, mutual funds, your 401k, stop, reflect, look around, be aware of your situation, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of where you're getting your data, and then take a minute and go, does it all make sense? Talk to people who have differing opinions. Don't surround yourself with yes people. have one person in your group who's the devil's advocate, who always wants to say no, and that gives them a logical perspective. Why? Because those are the people that make you go, well, let me go check this. Let me double check this. Let me go look at some of your sources. Let me see what they're saying. And when you do this, what you're going to find is that you become informed. And you know what an informed population is? A healthy population, a safer population, a wealthy population, a health conscious population. Be informed. So act, don't react. Okay. I like to flick my finger when I eat Cheetos. Well, it depends on what you're doing with those Cheetos. But yeah, no, I think you'll be fine. Um, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Yak, you got to go look at the um, German, or I think it's the German Cheetos commercial where their fingers are all. It's like, how do you get your fingers so clean? You're eating Cheetos. There's a hole in the wall, and there's this big old dude who licks his fingers for him. It's horrible. They banned it from the U.S. It's awesome. But yeah, information is key, right? Information is power. But in the situation with Iran, be aware, be observant. Yeah, there's going to be sleeper cells. They've been in the U.S. You know they exist. But don't live in fear. Do if anybody wants, matter of fact, if you guys want me to on Sunday, I will bring in. I'll have to make a telephone call and see if I can do this. But I will bring in a buddy of mine who teaches counterinsurgency, who teaches safe protection, who teaches things like um, uh, uh, cybersecurity, cyber awareness, and stuff like that. And we'll talk about in light of the situation, and we'll go through and we'll do what do you need to do? How can you protect yourself? If you guys want me to do something like that, it's like, hey, we're not going to be talking about coins today. We're going to be talking about protection. What does that mean? How to protect yourself in a situation like this? What do you do? What kind of things do you need to look for? What media sources should you be looking for? What news sources should you be looking for? What um, avenue should you be looking for? What kind of uh, secondary and tertiary opinion should you be finding? Um, Again, it's important that you are informed, but again, don't live in fear. Okay. Living in fear causes FOMO, it causes those emotional responses. And when you make actions based off of an emotional response, you're going to get into situations where you cause yourself trouble. And there are people out there just waiting for the emotional response. There are people out there that their entire goal is to get you to freak out. And once they've done that, they know that they have you. And so that is extremely true. I am more afraid of the youth of our country than I am any sleeper cell. California should be proof of that, seeing what we're seeing right now. Um, we're having to have states come out and say, if you stand in front of a vehicle and you're beating on the vehicle and they run over you, this is your fault. We shouldn't have to be telling people not to stand in front of vehicles and beat on it and not expect to get hurt, right? And so, whatever your stance is on that, if you're for this or whether you're against it, stupidity is going to it's going to be the end all for some folks. And again, be informed, be aware, and don't live in fear. Protect yourself, but don't live in fear. I hear there's some nice beachfront property in Antarctica. Actually, do you know Antarctica is only about a third of its size? The rest of the ice sheet is actually over the water. So if all the ice were to melt, Antarctica would be actually quite small. Interesting bit of information. I wish people knew how to use their red book. There are a bunch of errors and varieties and a bunch of counterfeits that could easily be identified if people would use a red book, or just Google, um, and quit looking at social media for the answers. Um, Social media ads are probably one of the worst banes, and boosts to uh, counterfeit coinage. It's absolutely horrible. And there's some very simple things that can be done in order to prevent that. So it's definitely something that I want to teach and make sure you guys are aware of counterfeits and scams and stuff. So I try to provide you as much as I can. There is no treatment for stupid. Yeah. And again, stupid is different than common sense. A lot of people say, well, they have no common sense. Common sense is only common if everybody around has it. If it's not, then they don't have it. It's not common sense. Um, Common sense is one of those really bad terms that's used a lot to explain stuff that is really just ignorance, and not ignorance as far as unaware ignorance. Ignorance is in is um, self justification, self righteousness. Um, and they say, well, he just lacks common sense. No, it's an integrity thing. So, yeah, I'm going to be doing the same thing, Daryl. It is 2 o'clock. I said I would stream to about 1:30 or 2 o'clock. I've been streaming for about 2.5 hours now, and it's time for me to get to bed. I got some stuff to get done in the morning. Folks, I appreciate you all hanging out with me tonight. I appreciate the conversation, the opportunity to share some little nuggets with you. Again, the information that I've done, I'll be posting probably tomorrow on my community page. So the little uh, pictures that I've showed you, like the $2, $5 notes, I'll post those, as well as the graphics that I used to talk about at the very beginning. Those will be posted on my community page. So go check those out. Again, if you're not a subscriber and you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I think I could listen to this guy a little bit more, hit the subscribe button. It's free for you, but it definitely helps me out. Go watch one of the videos. If you want to go check out the hordes, I've got to tell you, out of all the videos I've done, the hordes are probably some of the funnest that I've done. So go check out the Binion. Go check out the hordes on Redfield. And if you like drama, and you like a little bit of chaos, go check out the one that I did on the only FBI case that has ever remained unsolved when it comes to American skyjacking, and that is the mystery man of the Pacific Northwest and the DB Cooper story. Fun stuff. All right, folks. Well, hey, thank you so much for being here. Hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you Saturday morning. I may see you before, depending upon if Tiger goes live. But Saturday morning, 8:30 Central, Sunday morning, 8:30 Central. Join me to talk about the educational notes on Saturday. And then we will talk more on Saturday and see if you guys want to talk about security items. And then I really want you all to stay around on the 3rd of July. The 3rd of July, I'm going to be talking about U.S. history. I'm going to talk about the Declaration of Independence. I'm going to talk about everything that led from the landing at Plymouth, Jamestown, all the way up until today, some of the things that we face, the barriers. It is a full on project, and it's going to be a few hours. If you like history, you want to know more, ask questions. And at the end, I'm going to read the Declaration of Independence. And then we're going to wrap it up with a little bit of a salute to our men and women who are serving our nation. So if you're interested in that, it's going to be late on the 3rd, moving into the 4th, to celebrate the 4th of July and independence here in the U.S. All right, folks, be well, be blessed. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Take care, and I will see you in the streams.